With respect to your time, I kept the presentation relatively short, but made sure I didn't skip important information because the topics we're going to cover today is valuable to all organizations, regardless of the company's size or vertical. Now keep in mind that there's very few organizations across the globe that have implemented every topic that I'm going to discuss today. So please grab your notepads because more likely than not, there will be key points and concepts learned today that you can apply to your business. If there's any particular topics you'd like to discuss in more detail, please make a note of it and reach out to me at the conclusion of the webinar today. As Donna said, I will share my contact information with you at the end of the presentation, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, don't the world's leading organizations find a way to win, regardless of the economic conditions in which they operate? Now, these organizations, they don't have secret ways of doing things. They just got ways that are typically overlooked in other organizations. For example, engage your customers. Organizations that engage their customers outperform those that do not. Gallup's research, which spans across hundreds of organizations in many industries, shows that fully engaged customers buy more. They stay with you longer, and they're just more profitable than average customers in good economic times and bad. According to Gallup's research, customers who are fully engaged represent an average 23% premium in terms of share of wallet, profitability, revenue, and relationship growth over the average customer. Another way to win is look at supplier performance. Now, right now, you're probably asking yourself, Vince, how is my supplier performance going to help my business win in bad economic times? Because studies have found there's a link between supplier performance and customer loyalty. And with over 10 years of consulting and experience, I've seen time and time again that supplier performance is an area that most companies have vast room for improvement. Now, there was a study called the Grant Thornton Survey. Now, they focus primarily on small to mid-market companies, and that study found that a business that reports low on-time customer delivery has a low customer retention rate. Now, compare that with a high on-time delivery rate. The average customer retention rate is high. Simply put, your on-time delivery rate affects your client's retention rate. And I'm sure everyone listening today agrees with those findings. Now, let's look how this downstream data is affected by looking upstream to your suppliers. On-time delivery of supplier goods of 50% or worse limit your on-time delivery to customers to 68%. So your retention rate ends up at 70%. Prompt suppliers are associated with on-time delivery to customers at 90% with a customer retention rate at 82. Did you personally ever think that supplier performance had such a dramatic impact on customer retention? Now, more than 25% of middle market companies say that customer acquisition through new channels and markets is their top source of growth. And it would be hard to believe that any company with an interest in growth doesn't have an eye on customer acquisition. But listen, acquisition becomes a much more formidable task if it has to make up for poor retention. Existing customers are typically the biggest source of profit and revenue for any company. In fact, there's a rule of thumb that says it costs 7 times more to land a customer than to retain one. So keeping them is important. You want these customers to be happy, which at the very least means keeping them satisfied. Yet despite these findings, Laura Saucery, she has found that less than 1% of companies have a leader working on end-to-end processes, from the customer's customer to the supplier's supplier. She further found that companies are organized in functional silos, and unfortunately, the supply chain has become a function. So it's now part of the problem and not part of the solution. And we got to get beyond the definition of the supply chain as an organizational function. So I just told you one way to win was engage your customers. Now, let's think about all the real-time valuable customer data already located within the 4 walls of your organization and right at your fingertips. What about your CRM data? CRM, or as we all know it as customer relationship management, now that's about building and maintaining profitable long-term customer relationships. And typically, this is done by supplying customers with what they want at the right time, the right quantity, the right condition, and of course, the right cost. Well, your CRM is a way to identify each of these rights. Business relationship marketing and cross-selling techniques, which we know are favored by sales and marketing. CRM can also be used to predict future customer behavior. On a conceptual level, information flows out of CRM and into SCM. On a practical level, there may be challenges to this apparent simplicity. Even if a company already has software systems for both, there's no reason to expect or assume the two environments to be exactly in phase in terms of their activities, their data, and their inputs and outputs. However, it can be done. In fact, American Airlines has been doing it for years. They take customer information from its reservation systems and websites to feed into planning for fuel, food, spare parts, and more. Now, CEMEX, they're actually the second largest U.S. producer of cement and concrete mix, use CRM and SCM to guarantee future deliveries to the hour without overproducing. Now, this is a key capability for a company whose finished products that's rock hard so soon after preparation. Some firms who successfully leverage their CRM data have reduced their inventory practically by half, while still managing to increase on-shelf availability to almost 100%. Okay, so let's push your CRM data aside and let's look at another example, your point of sale and e-commerce data. E-commerce is growing as a channel. Even though this data is already collected, it sits siloed, making the data not usable to the rest of the organization. Responsible companies should be integrating this information into the holistic view you're building of customer actions, reactions, predictions. Now, a key takeaway for teams supporting online commerce is the importance of integrating real-time information flows among the online and back-end supply chain inventory and procurement systems. And teams representing online marketing and back-end fulfillment need to closely collaborate and test for system failures. If you're not doing this, an example is the 2013's most popular swimsuit that actually sold out before the official start of the swimsuit season. Now, this swimsuit, it was a print bikini. It was designed in joint collaboration between popular plus-size blogger Gabby Gregg and a retailer called Swimsuit for All. The online campaign was assessed, but the unanticipated demand exhausted all available inventory. Now, this actually resulted in two major issues. Unfortunately, due to its described computer glitch, the underlying on-fulfillment system did not react in time to the zero inventory condition and continued to book customers' orders. Because of the long swimsuit production lead times, there was no way to meet the additional and unexpected demand, leading to a backlash on social media. Now, you can see on the slide there's a quote from one of the customers. The customer went on to state, "I ordered mine at 8:30 a.m. the day of launch, got an email yesterday that they canceled my order. So sad." No one can dispute that a sellout of any product is evidence of customer delight. But that perception can turn rather quickly when the online system has a very public glitch. Now let's look at some more direct ways of engaging your customers. Everyone can agree that customers currently are more vocal than ever. So gather and analyze this data to become more aware of product, brand, or perception issues early so you can act quickly. Also, use of this data become critical in the process of detecting new hot products or trends. Now, an example is the cosmetic company Julep. They asked their fans on Facebook and Instagram to vote on which products they prefer. Now, the results aren't always a reliable indicator of sales, but customers like being involved in decisions. They also operate 4 nail parlors in Seattle in which it field tests products in development on paying customers. You can get a lot of great data online, but it's nice to get some first-hand feedback. Now, they also place text ads on Google for not yet available products to see which marketing messages gets the most clicks. You really want to try and unlock the potential of digital and learn to listen to your customers. Julep does this exceptionally well. One way to accomplish this is to build cross-functional teams to review social and digital consumer data weekly. This is going to help you understand the true voice of your customer. Now, I want to transition to a topic that makes your supply chain more efficient and responsive. and that's segmentation, because one size does not fit all in a supply chain. Implementing a one-size-fits-all approach in a supply chain ends up over-serving some customers and underserving others. Simply put, supply chain segmentation means creating separate supply chain streams or virtual supply chains to meet different needs of different customers. This requires an assessment of each customer or customer segment's expectations, their priorities, pain points, and profitability. For example, if you have one group of customers that need their product quickly, regardless of cost, you can develop a stream that delivers as fast as possible, but then attach a higher price tag. If you have another segment of customers that's more focused on value, you can develop a lower stream that meets their looser deadlines, but delivers a lower cost. Now, there was actually an article in the Wall Street Journal on the problems unprofitable customers cause for smaller companies and how to separate these customers from the profitable ones. The article stated one way is to sort your customers by revenue and then look at a breakdown of the costs of serving each of them. This tells you in black and white who your best and worst clients are. Most small businesses have motherloads of information about customer profitability that they have never mined. And many don't even know which part of their company is most profitable, even though this is very easy to find out. Once you've identified your worst customers, now you can take action to make them more profitable. Sometimes you'll find you're spending more on a customer that's worth less than you thought. So segmentation, it helps you find the balance between customization and cost, and ensures you're not spending time on the low profit groups that doesn't need it, while ignoring the high profit group that does. Okay, so let's recap real quick. So far, we discussed using customer insight and various ways to accomplish it, and segmentation. But what about product quality? Because product quality is table stakes, and it's critical to customer happiness and brand reputation. When a company purchases items from a vendor, depending on the nature of those items, a quality inspection may be performed when they're received. The inspection of products is also appropriate in other areas of the supply chain, such as inspections during the manufacturing process, the final finished product, and inspections while the items are stored in the warehouse. The supply chain is playing an increasingly predominant role in business vitality, so manufacturers have been incorporating supplier rating systems that provide greater transparency into their quality records. Now, a supplier collaboration tool tracks supplier performance, such as the number of usable parts per delivery or late or early shipments that lead to manufacturing errors. This kind of tool can help identify trends or score suppliers over the longer term, which helps ensure that you're working with only the best, most reliable suppliers. Investing the time and money on quality control procedures and standards internally will only go so far in preventing defects from supplied products. If supplied materials and components are not meeting standards and they're being sent back or actually incorporated into the final product, even the most capable manufacturing facilities are operating inefficiently. Collaborative technology allows you to achieve an early error detection because, unfortunately, even a highly rated supplier can send a defective product. While incoming inspections, they can usually detect problems before additional steps occur, they are very time-consuming and they're performed after the fact. It's more efficient to manage your supplier's quality while the product is still being manufactured on the supplier's plant floor. Use a collaborative technology to facilitate the communication and share data in real time. This way, manufacturers and their suppliers can work together to ensure that the products meet specifications prior to being purchased and delivered. Additionally, when working with multiple suppliers of the same product, manufacturers who have access to supplier quality data can evaluate the various vendors to determine the highest quality suppliers. Now, an example, Quickie Manufacturing, they're actually the largest manufacturer of cleaning tools, where they needed to implement a system to monitor and manage the quality of over 100 suppliers, all the way down to the shop floors the products were being manufactured. Now, Quickie began to implement a solution that collects raw shop floor data from multiple suppliers into a centralized database. Now, Quickie now has instantaneous access to lot quality, supplier-to-supplier comparisons, lot-to-lot comparisons, and lot verification. The system also sends real-time alarms to alert Quickie of potential issues so that Quickie can work with her suppliers to resolve them before they become problematic. This instant access to global quality records drastically reduces the risk of receiving defective lots, and it allows Quickie to implement incentive programs. That way you can reward the better suppliers and reduce the cost of working with poor performing suppliers. Another example is industrial controls manufacturing, where the suppliers inspect the products based on pre-agreed quality thresholds. Now, whether a shipment is misplaced, it's misreceived, mislabeled, or mishandled, the cost of lost and replaced inventory can quickly have a negative compounding impact on the organization's operations and financing. A shipping collaboration tool is designed to turn the receiving dock from a choking point into a high-performance gateway. And if the proper tool is selected, it will improve your shipment visibility, it'll link shipments to purchase orders, it'll eliminate rogue shipments, reduce shipment handling time, and even enforce supplier compliance. Now, Midmark, they're actually a leading provider of medical, dental, and veterinary equipment solutions. Now, they discovered an issue where customer shipments were arriving as, we call it, out-of-the-box failure, so either with the incorrect items or with the incorrect quantity of an item. They identified a need for increased visibility and control of both materials and information received between the pick and firm and pack out areas. So they chose to implement a mobile data collection tool. Now, this tool increased the availability of real-time information and visibility on receiving, shipping, and inventory across Midmark's entire supply chain. Within 1 month of implementation, out-of-the-box failures were reduced by 75%, exceeding their internal target of 50%. Now, the last topic we're going to discuss today, but is a rapidly growing one, and that's sustainability. Ethical consumption and corporate social responsibility are phrases heard more and more each year. Consumers are increasingly considering this as another dimension to product quality and potentially another brand differentiator. Forbes lists mindfulness as one of the top trends that will shape consumer behavior in 2014, stating people are also becoming increasingly aware of the ethical impact of their everyday lives. They're encouraged to think about and take responsibility for the ethical status of the things they do, buy, and even support. A survey of over 2,000 organizations showed that 1/3 of smaller companies have a defined sustainability strategy, and a further 23% intend to develop one over in the next 2 years. Now, the reasons for doing so may vary, but the core message is that sustainability is good for business. In some industries, it appeals to customers' changing values. It may strengthen relationships with suppliers. It can have a huge impact on positioning of a brand as a good corporate citizen that operates in harmony with local communities and the environment. And it can reduce the variable cost of running a business and therefore just drive profitability. According to the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, the sustainability requirements for SMEs are very similar to those of large companies. Addressing this concern can be challenging for companies that work with dispersed suppliers and global supply and distribution networks to get products into the hands of consumers. However, the brand carries the responsibility for meeting the accountability requirements of customers. Let's discuss a few examples of sustainability policies in a few organizations. Herman Miller, the big chair manufacturer. Now, they have a conflict mineral policy that states it will refrain from purchasing DRC conflict minerals that may finance or benefit armed groups in the Democratic Republic of the Congo or adjoining country. Another example almost everyone has heard at some point in their career are the unsafe working conditions in Bangladesh. Bangladesh exports about $18 billion worth of garments a year, yet their factory employees are among the world's lowest paid workers in the world and are forced to work with what they call sweatshops. Now get this, since 2006, more than 500 Bangladesh workers have died in factory fires. And activists say that global clothing brands need to take responsibility for the working conditions in Bangladesh factories where their products are manufactured. Ben & Jerry's. Now everyone loves Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Well, they announced that throughout 2014, they're transitioning all of their products globally to use fair trade ingredients. Now, fair trade, that's actually a global movement to make sure small farmers in developing countries can compete and thrive in a global economy. The last example I'll discuss, but just as important, is green manufacturing. Ecological Fibers, they were actually founded in Massachusetts in 1972 as a materials distributor to the book industry, and they actually operate under their trade name Rainbow. Well, they provide environmentally sound coverings that are manufactured not only respecting the environment, but also prioritizing the well-being of its workforce. Now, their CFO stated, our ecological policy was done for its own reason, but it does win customers and generate sales, and we have many new customers that can't get what they were looking for anywhere else. So let's look over the topics that I discussed with you today. Use customer insight. Now, you can do this by way of CRM data, point of sale and e-commerce data, and investing in analysis of new forms of customer information. But keep in mind, your end objective is engage your clients. A second takeaway is segment your supply chain. Group customers by their needs and profitability, which helps you find the balance between customization and cost. Optimize your supply chain using a supplier collaboration tool. But remember and make sure the tool provides real-time data sharing. Last but not least, build transparency and visibility into your supply chain. This is not only for the benefit of the environment and the community, but for your customers and your bottom line. Now, I work for Take Supply Chain, and it's our focus in improving global trading partner collaboration and process automation in the manufacturing and distribution space. We're based in Austin, Texas, and we have 2 decades of experience in delivering data collection and collaboration solutions. Now, I provided several real-life examples of organizations that have implemented a collaboration tool which turned their supply chain into a finely tuned engine that practically runs itself, like Quickie Manufacturing and Midmark. Now, these tools provide real-time data and gives them visibility into their supply chain that they've never had before. Collaboration tools, as I just discussed in this webinar, is one of the major ways organizations win regardless of the economic times. So the question you need to ask yourself is, can your organization afford not to implement such a tool? Because chances are your competitors are if they already have it. Well, OneSCM is the name of our branded solution in the trading partner collaboration and process automation space. It's a secure, web-based collaboration portal, and it's ERP agnostic, meaning it can integrate with virtually any ERP or back-end system. Now, our 3 mainstream OneSCM modules, they're focused on PO collaboration, shipment collaboration, and AP automation. Now, these 3 modules will automate your entire procure-to-pay and will have your supply chain running itself like that finely tuned engine I just spoke of. OneSCM also includes integrated business intelligence and analytics capability. Now, here's the visibility we've been talking about. How many of you watching this webinar can click a button and on one screen tell me what your on-time performance has been, such as your suppliers that are shipping late and which ones are on time? Or are you able to run a spend analysis? Visibility is essential for the fine-tuning or let's say adjustments that are needed to make a supply chain more efficient. Best of all, our solution can be implemented via a monthly SaaS, private cloud, or actually on-premises. And we're currently offering a special promotion for companies running Oracle or SAP ERPs, where we shoot for a OneSCM implementation in 8 weeks or less. Now, I personally would love to hear about your pain points you're currently experiencing and do some business process mapping of your supply chain and see what type of process re-engineering we can implement. So as I mentioned in the beginning, do not hesitate to contact me. Well, that's the end of my prepared slides. So I will pass it back over to Donna so she can facilitate the Q&A portion of the webinar.
Thanks, Vince, for a great presentation. And as I mentioned before, Vince is now available online for the next 5 to 10 minutes to answer any questions you may have. You can submit your question using the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. And we've also provided our phone number and email addresses on screen for any questions you may have after the close of our presentation today. And as another reminder, a recorded version of the presentation will be available on demand on our website at takesupplychain.com by next week. So let's get to the questions. All right, Vince, here's the first one. What was the company that dealt with shipping errors, and do you know what solution they used?
Actually, that's an easy one because they're a customer of ours. Because of its tight integration with ERP systems, Midmark implemented our tool. It's called Gemini. Now, Midmark, they're a customer-driven, mid-sized provider of medical, dental, veterinary examination equipment. So they came to us with a need for improved order fulfillment accuracy. And the ERP module they were using wasn't as configurable or cost-effective as they wanted, which is something I hear on a daily basis, actually. So we installed our data collection solution, Gemini, to meet their needs. And actually, to make it easier, email me after the webinar, and I'll send you the case study.
Okay. Question number 2. Are there any inexpensive ways to integrate data from point-of-sale and e-commerce systems?
Yes, there's less expensive ways to integrate data, but you really need to have a few things in place ahead of time, such as the right technology solutions and a clear understanding of what data you need, when you need it, and where it's located, actually. Even then, there's going to be limits, so you got to be aware of that. You can instead leverage other systems for data aggregation and consolidation, and actually business intelligence solutions also serve this purpose, as do more flexible collaboration systems. One of my colleagues had a client a few years back that experienced a situation similar to the Swimsuits for All. The e-commerce site was out of sync with inventory. They used a third-party system to collect the data for customer orders and align demand with supply. No surprise, the customers were much happier after that.
All right, here's another question. You talked about non-profitable customers in segmentation. What if you do all that you recommended and some customers still aren't profitable?
That's a really good question because it's a sensitive question, but it's a question we must have. Sometimes the supply chain is fully optimized, but there's a group of customers who just simply don't fit. Most salespeople and all owners don't like to have these conversations. But there are times when you have to say goodbye to one group of customers so you can add more customers in a more profitable segment. Now, this shouldn't have to be done hastily, of course, right? But I've seen my clients grow much more quickly by dropping the high maintenance, low margin, or even no margin segments that were consuming a disproportionate amount of resources to support. Now, the hard part is giving up existing customers and betting that you're going to get new ones.
All right, Vince, here's another question. I think this has to do with ERP integration. Let's see, do you have any solutions that work with Oracle JDE SCM systems?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again? I apologize.
That's okay. Do you have any solutions that work with Oracle JDE systems?
Yes, actually we do. All of our solutions are actually, as I mentioned, ERP agnostic, so they can connect to virtually any ERP or back-end system.
All right, good. And it looks like we have time for one more question. So, and again, I'll let everybody know that if we didn't get to your question today, Vince will follow up with you directly, or if you have questions after the end of the presentation, feel free to contact either Vince or myself. The last question, what are some typical supplier performance measurements?
Now, there's always differences across industries and actually even among companies, but 5 of the standard measurements that I look at are, let's say, on-time delivery, and that would relate to delivery within the approved shipping window. I would say order accuracy, which covers item accuracy, item quantity, and item price. Quality, which is based on a prearranged defect rates. Response time, which is based on purchase order acknowledgement cycle time. And the last one I'd say would be the compliance, which can be used, the use of approved carton and item labels, shipping carriers, documentation, change notification, etc. Now, one of the keys in these measurements is to make sure you have the data to measure, and locating the data and determining what is measured and how is something our customers are requesting more and more.
Okay. Well, thanks, Vince. And this does conclude the Q&A portion of our presentation. Thanks again to everyone for joining us today. We will get back to you with any questions that you submitted that we couldn't answer online today, and we do look forward to seeing you online or in person again very soon.